All right. Let's now take the conversation to Nairobi, Kenya, where security officers have been deployed to areas surrounding State House in Nairobi and Kisumu in what seems to be a precaution against likely protests on Thursday by the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition. The securing of the routes followed the near expiry of a 14-day ultimatum issued by Azimio leader Raila Odinga with demands to President William Ruto, among others, to open election service, lower the cost of living, and call off the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC.
Now, 2 security officers were sent to guard roadblocks erected on several routes, with another team of 2 stationed at the State House Gate C, which is often left unguarded to control traffic. In Kisumu, a police cordoned off the road leading to the State Lodge, while Jomo Kenyatta Highway was blocked from the wee hours of Wednesday, March 8th, as motorists were forced to use alternative routes. Joining us this morning to discuss this further is Benji Ndolo. He's a political strategist. Good morning, Mr. Ndolo. Good to see you. It would be nice for you to give us a feel of what exactly is going on in Kenya. You know, since the elections, there has been no rest for William Ruto or any time for him to actually focus on governance. Raila Odinga, while attending a prayer rally on February 22nd, said that the country has been largely affected by drought exacerbated by withdrawal of subsidies and high cost of living, and therefore threatened mass action if taxes currently imposed on the products will not be lowered. Now, share with us, what is it like really in Kenya at this point?
Good morning, and our warmest regards from East Africa to the people of Nigeria. Indeed, we have a bit of a political situation this morning. I must be very candid and point out right from the onset that because in your previous story, I saw that age of presidents was really a topic of discussion. There is a more than 20 years difference between the Honorable Raila Odinga and the current President William Ruto. I can tell you without fear of contradiction that the kind of thing that you're seeing today is simply because the president will not acquiesce to any of the demands. The president is working hard, he's working purposefully under difficult circumstances. We did suffer, unfortunately, massive looting under the just exited regime of Uhuru Kenyatta, propped up by Honorable Raila Odinga. And so there's a lot of things to put in place. There's subsidies and different government programs that were being abused and used as special purpose vehicles for looting. And so the president is keen to restructure government, to structure systems, to lower cost of living. I'm one of the loudest voices in Kenya towards ensuring that energy prices come down and cost of living comes down. And so the president will not kowtow to Raila Odinga in any way. And it's also instructive to note that the president used to work for Raila Odinga, was his own apprentice, if you may. And so we're in a situation now where the current president, after the fallout with Raila Odinga, is not interested in any discussions with Raila Odinga, is not, going to play any sort of compromise politics. He's the declared president. The court found him so, and so he will not really heed any ultimatums. And I'll be here on your station many a times. I'll be more than willing to come back and to discuss this further. And so the ultimatums today, the reason you see the deployment is because the president is not interested in giving in to demands per se. What he's interested in is respecting the will of the people and governing them and putting his programs in place. That is what's happening, the long and short of it.
Okay, now let's talk about the supposed threat. We've seen that President William Ruto and his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, had dismissed this threat by Odinga, and they have assured that they will not be derailed in the journey to development, right? But the president has gone ahead to fortify security within the State House. What does this say about him? Is it, is he genuinely dismissing this threat, but somewhere in his heart anticipating that it might happen?
Yeah, so you have to understand the histories of both men. The president, let's just say President William Ruto got to where he is today over the last 25 years that he just came into politics. by simply never losing a political contest that he was involved in. And so he is the quintessential, aggressive, in your face, bold, type of candid, straight talking politician. And so the reason he is deploying security is because he is simply taking no chances. His no is no, and his yes is yes. And so the no here means no discussions, no compromises of sorts, because what politicians here do is they call for discussions publicly, and ultimately, and many politicians I'm sure do this, especially across Africa, ultimately when they do, then they just look at interests and benefits, especially financial benefits for themselves, which is also a means of running politics as a business. And so President William Ruto is not interested in that. And so the deployment is as a precaution and as a signal that if you are in any way moving towards any sort of disruption and any sort of illegal activity and disturbance of the peace, then there is law enforcement in numbers to quell this and to put down any sort of perceived quote revolution in Kenya.
All right.
And so again, the president is against this.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this happen, even in the White House, whenever there is, fear of protest or anything, they normally would barricade the White House. I think even in a state in Nigeria, Enugu State, there's been some roadblocks, because of protests sometime in 2020. It's embarrassing. But I want to talk about Raila Odinga now. Can you help, our viewers understand who exactly he is, and if he has always had this personality as the seeming head of the opposition? This has gone on for decades now. While if he contests and he doesn't win, he becomes the head of the opposition or the face of the opposition, and that's really who he's always been. So tell us about who Raila Odinga is, and also the type of followership that he has in Kenya.
What a good question. Your question is, the kind of question that you could actually do a Harvard paper on. And I'll try not to be very academic. I'll try to be very pragmatic. And I'm in a good position to do that because I used to support Raila Odinga. I've actually kind of indirectly worked for him in the past. And so I personally met him in 1997 in Atlanta, Georgia. I've, also been around as a young man those days, and Raila Odinga came to the diaspora to talk to us who are out there, Kenyans out there, working, in different spaces. At the time, I was part of the Atlanta African Kenyan Professionals in Atlanta, the AFPA organization. That's the first time I met Raila Odinga. Raila has been through a lot. Raila is a very frustrated politician. I will be very candid on your show. Raila has been through a lot. Raila was charged in the 1980s after the 1982 coup d'etat attempt against President Daniel Arap Moi. It is my professional and personal opinion that that suspicion of being part of that coup is something that has haunted him the rest of his life. Why do I say that? Raila is very popular on the ground. Raila is very popular. He's also a very talented politician, not only in terms of putting strategy together, but also in terms of connecting with the ground, in terms of communication. He's not a very articulate person, but he's very good with the similes and the riddles, etc. And of course, he's very good with reading the mood. So as you can see on this particular clip, my former boss there, the former Vice President Kalonzo, is right there. And flanking Raila right in this clip on the left is Honorable Johnston Mudama, who is now the president's chairman of UDA, President William Ruto. Raila has the unfortunate, ability to lose friends and to make enemies. So this is who Raila is. He quickly loses friends, makes a lot of enemies. He's a very talented politician. And so what has happened is for the last 25 years, and that's a long time, Raila has been involved in presidential politics either as a candidate, 1997, 2007, 2013, 2017, twice, and 2022. That is no less than 5 attempts. And in 2002, Raila almost single-handedly propped up President Mwai Kibaki, who won the presidency. You can therefore imagine the level of his frustration, especially at this point, to not only have lost or been rigged out before, but now here's his own apprentice, William Ruto, a man that ended up in The Hague after the 2007 election fighting for Raila, etc. And William Ruto today is president. And so Raila embodies the entire, feeling of frustration and the fabric across the Kenyan society, where people feel life is hard, food is expensive, we're in a jobless economy, and even though he is not the cleanest politician, he really is the best representation of what it can be to live in a difficult Kenya where nothing is really working as it should. Something very similar to what we saw in the presidential election in Nigeria, where a lot of young people were coming out, and we saw that, saying, look, we just don't trust the system. We have no hope. We feel that there's nothing really to live for, and we feel that nothing really works in Nigeria. Very, very terrible situation. But that is how Raila has galvanized his support and organized his followers really in a frenzied kind of manner. And so he hasn't really lost a lot of support. But as time goes, and at 78 plus years of age, his best days are behind him, and it's really, really been really tough going, especially in the last 10 years under the Uhuru and Ruto regime. That's Raila in a nutshell.
Wow, this really does sound like some thesis, like you said. It could make for us research, a Harvard paper of some sort. But thank you so much for joining us this morning and breaking these down. And we look forward to having you back again. And maybe we can talk about how Nigeria's elections affecting Kenya and lessons to learn from both countries. We'll see you around.